If you love rejected Luna stories where the quiet woman finally gets the last word, subscribe before we begin. The silver Luna shawl had not been made for Isolde Marrow. Mara Vale knew that because she had sewn the moon thread into its hem herself. One winter evening when the old temple roof leaked, the kitchens ran out of coal, and Alpha Callum Graythorn told her she worried too much about things no one noticed. People noticed now. Every elder in the Graythorn Hall noticed Isolde standing beneath the wolf banners with the shawl draped over her narrow shoulders. Every steward noticed the way she let the fabric catch the blue hearthlight. Every guard pretended not to stare. Mara stood at the open doors with her gloves still damp from the temple archives. Her first thought was not pain. It was inventory. The shawl belonged in the Luna cedar chest. The cedar chest belonged in the eastern antechamber. The eastern antechamber had only 3 keys. Mara had 1. The head housekeeper had 1. Callum had the 3rd. Isolde turned slowly, as if the hall had been built for the moment she could be admired in another woman's place. She was dressed in pale gray silk, the color of new frost, with pearls at her throat and softness carefully arranged around her eyes. "Mara," she said, sweetly enough for the elders, "I did not know you were coming back from the temple so soon." The words were polished. The glance was not. Mara stepped into the hall. Her boots made almost no sound on the black stone floor. Beneath the long council table, something growled. "Lo! Warning!" Several elders stiffened. Vera came out from the table shadow one paw at a time. The Lynx cat was built like a small wild storm. Her shoulders rolled beneath thick gold-gray fur. Black tufts rose from the tips of her ears. Her short tail twitched once, hard. She fixed her pale eyes on Isolde and bared just enough teeth to make one of the younger stewards drop a tray spoon. "Control that animal," Callum said. He had been standing near the hearth, half turned toward Isolde, as if he had been adjusting the shawl on her shoulder. Mara looked at him. Callum Graythorn had once been able to make a hall go silent by entering it. He was still handsome in the clean, hard way the wolf court liked. Dark hair, straight posture, formal black coat, the alpha ring on his hand. But tonight Mara saw the hesitation behind his eyes before he spoke. He knew the shawl was wrong. He simply hoped she would swallow it. "Vera," Mara said. The lynx cat stopped growling. She did not stop staring. Her tail struck the floor once, like a gavel. Isolde gave a small, startled laugh. "She is protective. I suppose that is charming in a rustic way." Vera sneezed. It was not delicate. The nearest elder coughed into his fist. Mara kept her eyes on Callum. "Who gave her the temple key?" Callum's jaw tightened. "It is not a temple key." Isolde lifted one hand. A silver key hung from her wrist on a ribbon. Mara did not look away from him. "That key opens the outer archive cabinet, the one that holds the oath copies for tomorrow's council." "It is a duplicate for learning," Callum said. "Isolde will need to understand the temple duties after I leave?" Mara asked. The hall tightened around the words. Callum's expression shifted. Not guilt. Not yet. Irritation. "You are making this public." "I found it public." Isolde's fingers closed around the key. Callum only wanted the transition to be gentle. "Someone must learn the work, Mara." "The work," Mara repeated. The word settled between them. 3 years of winter grain tallies. 3 years of healing lists. 3 years of moonlight records, widows' petitions, border guest rolls, oath renewals, hearth seals, and old temple repairs. 3 years of Callum calling it worry when Mara did it, and stability when the court enjoyed the result. Callum lowered his voice. "Do not turn this into a scene." Mara walked to the council table. Vera followed at her left knee, soundless except for a faint click of claw on stone. Mara removed the mate ring from her gloved hand. It was not a wedding ring. Not yet. The Graythorn court had delayed that ceremony twice, both times because Isolde had needed comfort, a place, protection, a room, a seat, a shawl. The ring looked smaller on the table than it had felt on her hand. "I am not asking you to choose anymore," Mara said. "I am ending the bond." No one moved. Then 3 elders began speaking at once. Callum stared at the ring. Mara. She almost hated the way he said her name then. Not angry. Not proud. Not even cold. Wounded. As if she had stepped on his foot by removing the knife he had been holding to her ribs for months. "You cannot simply declare that in the hall," Elder Branna said, pushing herself up from her chair. A Luna candidate who ends a registered mate engagement must file dissolution in the old temple. I know, Mara said. Before midnight, another elder added. I know that too. The oath rolls must be verified by the leaving party, Branna continued. If you fail to complete the midnight review, the council may consider certain privileges abandoned. Mara turned to her. Name them. The elder looked uncomfortable. Mara waited. No one in the hall enjoyed silence when Mara chose to use it. Branna cleared her throat. Dowry protection. Free passage through Greythorn territory. Temple signature rights. Claim to private records. Personal guardianship of any animal attached to temple service. Vera's ears flattened. Mara's eyes moved to Isolde. There it was. For the first time, Isolde's soft face failed to hide its satisfaction. Not the shawl. Not the key. Not even the seat. Vera. They had meant to make Mara leave her Lynx behind. The air in the hall changed. Mara felt it against her skin. Callum noticed too late. Mara, he said again quieter. No one is taking the animal from you. Vera gave a low, offended sound. Mara picked up the old temple key from the council table. The real one. Her key. You do not get to call her the animal. Callum's face flushed. Mara turned toward the eastern passage. Vera walked ahead of her now. Not like a pet. Like a guard. Behind them, Isolde said lightly. At least the temple still remembers what you are useful for. Mara paused. She did not turn. No, she said. Tonight the temple will remember what I am done being used for. Then she walked out. The old temple had been cold for as long as Mara had known it. Not sacred cold. Neglected cold. The kind that settled into stone when too many people treated duty as decoration. Moonlight spilled through broken lattice windows. Silver dust lay over the pews and the crescent altar. The old flame bowls along the side walls were empty. The wolf statues looked down with blind patience. Vera leaped onto the nearest bench, then to the back of a chair, then to a high beam with the ease of something born to judge everyone from above. Do not startle the archivist, Mara said. Vera's ear tufts flicked. From behind the scripture cabinet, Nella Ward emerged with an ink lamp clutched in both hands. Nella was 22, thin, serious, and forever trying to make herself smaller in rooms where men liked to speak over women. She had served as the temple's junior scribe for 5 years. Mara had once found her crying over a misnumbered burial ledger and taught her how to scrape ink without tearing vellum. Tonight, Nella looked at the ringless glove on Mara's hand and went pale. My lady. Not for much longer, Mara said. Bring me the dissolution roll. Nella swallowed. The council seal arrived before supper. Who brought it? Nella looked down. Nella. A runner from the Alpha's office. Male or female? Male. But Lady Isolde came after. The words were small. They were enough. Mara set the temple key on the altar. Did she touch the rolls? Nella's hands trembled around the lamp. She said the Alpha wanted her to observe the order of transition. Did she touch the rolls? Yes. Vera made a sound from the beam. It was not quite a growl. It was worse. Nella flinched. She is not angry at you, Mara said. She is angry at everyone in general. It is her resting state. Despite herself, Nella gave a short, nervous laugh. Bring the original register too, Mara said. Nella hurried to the archive cabinet. Mara removed her gloves and laid them beside the altar bowl. Her fingers looked steady. That felt useful. It was sometimes enough to make a hand behave, even when the heart beneath it had gone silent. Vera dropped down from the beam to the altar rail, landing without a sound. She sniffed the dust, sneezed. Then she began pawing at an offering bowl. Vera. The Lynx cat froze. A roasted chestnut sat between her teeth. Mara looked at her. Vera stared back. Very slowly, with great personal insult, she opened her mouth and let the chestnut fall back into the bowl. Thank you. Vera looked away first, but only because she seemed offended by the entire moral framework of temples. Nella returned with 2 rolls wrapped in gray cord. Mara cut the cord on the first. The top sheet was neat. Too neat. The dissolution language had been copied in a smooth hand. Mara read the first paragraph once. Then again. Her name was there, but not where it should be. Mara Vale, former acting Luna candidate, to relinquish former. The word had been added early. The bond had not yet been dissolved. She moved down the parchment. Dowry holdings to be reviewed by Greythorn Council after a period of transition. No. Free passage through Greythorn lands pending Alpha approval. No. Temple signature rights to be transferred to the incoming Luna representative. No. Guardianship of temple-attached beasts to remain with the Greythorn court until reassignment. Vera's paw came down on the bottom of the page. Her claws pricked the parchment without tearing it. Mara looked at the wide paw covering that line. Not that claws, Mara said softly. Vera did not move. Mara touched the lynx's ear. The black tuft flickered under her fingers. Not yet. Vera lifted her paw, but her eyes stayed bright and hostile. Nella whispered, "That was not in the draft I copied this morning." Mara opened the second roll. The original register. Her own handwriting appeared in the side margin, dated 3 winters ago. Hearth stores repaired, widow fees waived, North Archive roof sealed, Lower Oath cabinet treated for damp. Small things. Unromantic things. The sort of things that kept people warm, fed, married, buried, and remembered. She found the dissolution template. In the original, the leaving party retained dowry protection upon self-declared dissolution, so long as no theft, false oath, or injury to court property was proven. Free passage remained intact. Temple signature rights remained with the person who had performed and recorded the duties unless publicly surrendered. Personal bonded animals could not be claimed by the court unless abandoned by name. Mara exhaled once. Nella looked close to tears. "My lady, I should have stopped her. You should have had a court that did not make a junior scribe stop a favored woman with an alpha's permission." Nella's mouth trembled. Vera pushed her head under Mara's palm. For everyone else, Vera was teeth, claws, narrowed eyes, and judgment. For Mara, she was a warm, rumbling weight. The purr began low in the lynx's chest. It moved through Mara's hand like a small underground engine. Mara closed her fingers gently in the thick fur beneath Vera's jaw. "I am all right," she said. Vera purred louder, clearly disagreeing. Mara looked at the altered oath again. "They tried to turn my leaving into theft." Nella nodded. "Then we make the leaving legible." She began restoring the order. The original register first. The altered dissolution roll second. The unsigned transfer page third. The temple witness sheet last. A faint mark showed beneath the dust at the base of the altar lamp. Mara frowned. She took a clean cloth and wiped the stone. A dragon. Not the wolf crest of Greythorn. A dragon etched in a circle of flame, almost hidden under a century of neglect. "Nella," Mara said. "What is this mark?" Nella stepped closer. Her lamp shook. "My lady, what is it?" "I thought it was old decoration." Mara wiped again. "The dragons I cleared." Blue gold fire leaped from the dead altar lamp. Vera exploded into motion. She sprang between Mara and the fire, fur bristling, back arched, teeth bared. The flame did not reach her. It curved around the lynx like water around a stone. Then it rose. Not red. Not orange. Blue gold. The cold temple filled with sudden warmth. The wolf statues seemed to wake beneath the light. The old bell above the roof, silent since Mara was a child, struck once. The sound rolled over the court. Nella dropped to her knees. Mara did not. She stood with one hand still on the original register, and the other hovering over Vera's back. The old temple doors flew open. Callum entered first, coat unfastened, eyes sharp with alarm. Isolde followed with 2 guards and 3 elders behind her. Callum stopped at the sight of the flame. "What did you do?" The question struck the room harder than the bell. Vera's growl returned. Mara kept her voice level. "I restored the original order of the dissolution roll." Isolde gave a breathless laugh. "She rejected you, and now she wants a miracle to make herself look chosen." "Do not," Nella whispered. Everyone looked at her. The scribe went white. Mara turned just enough to stand between Nella and the room. "What did you say?" Callum asked. Nella's throat moved. "That is not a wolf flame." Another bell answered from far away. Not from the temple. From the north. The sound was deeper, older, and it moved through Mara's bones. Elder Branna gripped the altar rail. That was a dragon bell. The blue-gold flame rose higher. In its center, a line of fire formed words in a language Mara did not know. Callum's face hardened. Seal the temple. Vera snarled. No one moved. Callum looked at the guards. I said seal it. Mara looked at him then. For years, she had known the exact measure of his voice. How much command, how much confidence, how much carelessness. Tonight she heard what she had not wanted to hear before. Fear. Not for her. For what she had found. No, Mara said. The guards froze. Callum stared at her. You do not command here anymore. I command the record of my own dissolution until midnight. That is your law. Isolde stepped forward. Vera's head lowered. Isolde stepped back. Mara picked up the original register. Nella, record what I touched. Nella's fingers shook as she took up her quill. Mara picked up the altered roll. Record what had been changed before I arrived. Callum's expression went still. Isolde's softness sharpened. Mara pointed to the flame without looking away from Callum. And record that I did not command your fire. The northern bell sounded a third time. This time the temple doors opened without anyone touching them. The wind that entered was not winter wind. It smelled of cold iron, cedar smoke, and distant rain over stone. 6 black-cloaked guards stepped into the temple and moved aside. A man entered after them. He was very tall. Not in the way Callum was tall, built for wolf court ceremony and hearthside command. This man looked built for gates, mountains, and storms that had learned to obey him from a distance. His hair was black, loose at his shoulders, and not perfectly arranged. The blue-gold fire touched the hard line of his jaw, the dark coat clasped at his throat, the silver at his wrists. His eyes were the deep blue of a winter sky just before the sun vanished. Mara knew who he was before anyone said it. Every border child knew the Dragon Court crest. The Dragon King of the North had come to Greythorn. At his side walked a woman in a deep blue gown and a cloak lined with matte silver. She was older than Mara, not old, with streaks of steel through her dark hair and a face that made softness look unnecessary. She carried a slender black staff capped with a silver flame. Elder Branna lowered her head at once. King Orek, she said. Lati Mairwin. Callum bowed, but not deeply enough. The Dragon King did not look at him first. He looked at the flame, then at the altered roll, then at Mara, then at the lynx cat crouched in front of her. Vera showed him every tooth she owned. One of the dragon guards shifted a hand toward his sword. The Dragon King lifted 2 fingers. The guard stopped. The Dragon King remained where he was, leaving a clear space between himself and Mara. Who woke the royal dragonfire? He asked. His voice was calm. That made it worse. Callum answered before Mara could. There has been a misunderstanding. My former. Not you, Lady Merwin said. Her gaze cut to Mara. Did you touch the flame? I touched the lamp base, Mara said. I wiped away dust and restored the oath rolls to the original order. Did you speak a summoning phrase? No. Did you use a dragon seal? No. Did you intend to call my court? No. Lady Merwin looked at the blue gold fire. Interesting. Callum gave a strained laugh. As you see, Lady Merwin, she did not intend anything. Mara's been under strain. She declared a dissolution in the hall, then came here and Vera lunged 1 step. Callum stopped speaking. Mara's hand settled on Vera's head. Enough. The lynx cat sat. It was not obedience so much as a negotiated ceasefire. The Dragon King's gaze lowered to Vera. Yours? Only when she agrees, Mara said. One corner of Lady Merwin's mouth moved. At least one creature in this court understands boundaries. A snort escaped Nella. She covered it too late. Isolde's eyes narrowed. The Dragon King looked at Mara's bare left hand, then the mate ring on the distant table outside the temple doors. The ring was visible through the open passage, a small dull circle under the hall lamps. You declared dissolution tonight, he said. Yes. And the flame woke during the review? Yes. Why were you reviewing alone? Mara glanced at Callum. He did not like that. Elder Branna spoke. Pack law requires the leaving Luna candidate to verify the oath rolls before midnight. Lady Merwin turned her head slowly. Requires her to verify, or requires her to accept whatever has been placed before her in an empty temple. No one answered. Lady Merwin looked at the altered roll. Who prepared this? Nella's fingers tightened around her quill. Mara felt the girl's fear beside her. I copied the morning draft, Nella said, barely audible. Lady Merwin did not soften. That was not my question. The morning draft was correct, Nella said. This is not that draft. Isolde gave a careful sigh. Junior scribes are often confused by revisions. I only asked to observe the transition. Lady Merwin examined her. Wearing the outgoing Luna's shawl, the temple went very quiet. Isolde's hand flew to the silver fabric. Callum said, That is not relevant to the dragon flame. No, Lady Merwin said. It is relevant to the court disease that allowed the flame to wake. Callum's face closed. The Dragon King stepped toward the altar. Vera rose. He stopped immediately. Mara noticed it, because she was watching for power. Men who had it usually expected space to part. The Dragon King did not force it. He looked at Mara instead. May I examine the lamp? Vera's ear tufts trembled. Mara touched her shoulder. Guard, not drama. Vera sat, eyes burning. The Dragon King approached, slow enough that even Vera could pretend she had allowed it. He leaned over the lamp, but did not reach past Mara. The heat of him arrived before his hand did. Not warmth like hearth fire. Warmth like a door open to summer in the middle of a long winter. Mara became sharply aware of the dust on her fingertips and the fact that she had taken off her gloves. Her pride noticed too late that her pulse had changed. The Dragon King studied the lamp base. They made this an insult, he said. Mara looked at the altered oath roll. I made it accurate. He turned his head. For a second, his blue eyes held hers. It was not pity. It was attention. Mara had been given many things by the Greythorn court. Duties, keys, blame, waiting, silence. Attention was different. It had weight. Then Vera inserted herself between them with the full dignity of an offended queen and sat on Mara's boot. Lady Merwin's mouth moved again. The Dragon King straightened. The flame is authentic. Elder Branna swayed. Callum's hand curled at his side. Then someone taught her to wake it. Mara felt the old mate mark at the base of her throat go cold. It happened sometimes when Callum spoke as though her competence needed a guilty explanation. The mark had once warmed when he entered a room. Now it cooled, a reminder of a promise that had become a rope. Vera felt it. The Lynx cat pressed her body against Mara's leg, purring low. The sound filled the space between Mara's ribs. Lady Merwin looked at the animal, then at Mara. This creature hates every person in this room, she said. And yet she calms for you. She has good taste, Mara replied. The Dragon King's eyes flickered. Not quite a smile. Enough. Isolde stepped forward again. This is all very dramatic, but the issue remains simple. Mara ended the bond. If she now regrets it. I do not, Mara said. Callum flinched. For the first time that night, he looked less like an alpha and more like a man who had believed a door would never lock behind him. Isolde recovered faster. Then let her leave. If she wishes freedom, she cannot also keep court privileges. Mara turned to her. You changed the role. I observed revisions. You changed the role. Isolde's eyes shone. You are upset. Vera hissed. It was an ugly, magnificent sound. The Dragon King looked at the altered parchment. The royal fire woke when the original order was restored. Callum said, That proves nothing. Lady Merwin tapped her staff once on the stone. The blue-gold fire lowered, as if listening. It proves enough to require an open hearing. No, Callum said. The word came too quickly. Lady Merwin's gaze landed on him. He corrected himself. I mean, with respect, this is an internal Greythorn dissolution. The dragon flame is not internal to Greythorn, the Dragon King said. The quiet of his voice returned. It could have frozen a river. Callum held his stare for 2 seconds, then looked away. Mara should have felt triumph. Instead, she felt tired. Men had finally arrived with enough power to make Callum listen. That did not make the years before this less wasted. She picked up the altered roll. If my rejection is being turned into theft, she said, then I want the council open. Isolde's mask cracked. You cannot accuse me before the pack because your pet found a mood. Vera flattened her ears at the word pet. Mara did not look at her. Vera is not the witness. She held up the parchment. This is. Nella swallowed hard. And the original register. Mara looked at her. The scribe was pale, but still standing. Only if you choose to speak, Mara said. Nella looked at the altered roll, then at Isolde, then at Callum. Her fear was visible. So was the thing under it. Anger, small but waking. I wrote it down, Nella said. Because someone had to. Lady Merwin inclined her head once. Then we will hear you in the council hall. They opened the council before midnight. Everyone who mattered came because the Dragon King's guards stood at the outer doors and Lady Merwin's staff rested across the threshold. No one called it force. The Dragon Court did not need to. Presence was enough. Mara walked in with the altered roll, the original register, and Vera at her side. She did not wear the Luna shawl. Isolde still did. That was useful. A visible lie was easier for old eyes to understand. The council hall was larger than the temple, warmer and crueler. It had been built for public agreement. Mara had sat through enough meetings here to know how often agreement meant women nodding, while men renamed theft as tradition. Tonight the hall was full. Stewards lined the back. The housekeeper stood near the west arch. Temple attendants whispered beside the pillars. Guards watched the Dragon King, and pretended they were not afraid of him. Vera ignored the floor entirely. She leaped onto the tall archive cabinet behind Mara's chair, and looked down at the council like a small, furious judge. A murmur moved through the hall. She cannot have that creature above the council, Elder Branna said. Mara did not turn. You may ask her to come down. Branna looked up at Vera. Vera yawned, showing fangs. Branna said nothing else. The Dragon King stood to the right of the council table, not behind Mara, not in front of her. Beside her. Not close enough to claim. Close enough to make the old court remember that she was not alone. Lady Merwin took the witness seat reserved for foreign dignitaries, and made it look like a throne. Callum sat at the Alpha's chair. His eyes kept going to Mara's bare hand. Isolde sat one chair lower, which she clearly hated, with the shawl still over her shoulders. Mara placed the mate ring on the table again. This time no one interrupted. I declared dissolution tonight, she said. By Greythorn law, I entered the old temple before midnight to verify the leaving oath. During that review, I found the dissolution roll altered. Callum's voice was controlled. You found changes you disliked. Mara looked at him. No. I found rights removed that the original law protects. Isolde leaned forward. You rejected the Alpha. You cannot expect to leave with every honor attached. Mara turned to her. I am not leaving with honor attached. I am leaving with what was mine before you tried to edit it. The back of the hall stirred. Good. Simple words. Clear blade. Lady Merwin spoke. Let the scribe read. Nella stepped forward. Her hands shook so hard the first page rattled. Vera's purr began from the cabinet. It was low, almost hidden. Nella looked up. The Lynx cat stared at her with what might have been encouragement or a threat to behave. With Vera, the two often looked similar. Nella breathed in. The original dissolution template states that a self-declaring Luna candidate retains dowry protection unless charged and proven under public witness of theft, false oath, or abandonment. She lifted the altered roll. The changed version places dowry holdings under Greythorn Council review. A ripple moved through the room. Mara did not look at Callum. If she did, she might remember every evening she had sat beside him, balancing grain and widow stipends while he told her she should rest more. Nella continued. The original grants free passage through Greythorn territory for 1 full year after dissolution. The changed version places passage under Alpha approval. This time the murmur was louder. Lady Merwin's expression did not change. The original states that temple signature rights remain with the person who performed and recorded the duties unless publicly surrendered. Nella swallowed. The changed version transfers those rights to the incoming Luna representative. Isolde's hand tightened on the shawl. The original records 3 years of temple service under Mara Vale's name. Nella's voice strengthened. The changed version removes the service record and leaves the field blank. Blank. That word did what pain had not. The hall went still. Blank meant anyone could write over her. Blank meant the winters had kept themselves warm. Blank meant the widows had signed their own waivers. The temple roof had sealed itself. The border guest rolls had checked their own seals, and the Luna shawl had always belonged to the woman wearing it now. Nella looked at Mara. Mara nodded once. The scribe read the final line. The original states, bonded personal guardians remain with the leaving party unless abandoned by name. Nella's jaw set. The changed version marks Vera as temple-attached property, subject to reassignment by Greythorn Council. Vera stopped purring. Everyone heard the silence. Then the lynx cat rose. Slowly. Callum said, Mara. Do not say my name like you just discovered that line, Mara said. He said nothing. Isolde's eyes shone with outrage now, not tears. That creature has lived in the temple. It is not unreasonable. Vera dropped from the cabinet to the table. 3 elders recoiled. She landed in front of Isolde, broad paws planted on polished wood. Isolde made a thin sound. Vera sniffed the air. Then, with immense purpose, she padded to the far end of the table, where Isolde's small writing case sat beside her chair. The lynx cat hooked one claw under the leather flap. Do not let it touch my things, Isolde snapped. Vera looked at her, opened the case, and pulled out a folded wax paper. She slapped it flat under one paw. Mara saw the grease mark first. Roasted chestnut oil. Of course. Vera had not found a conspiracy. She had found food. But when the paper opened under her paw, the hall saw rows of signatures. Mara Vale. Mara Vale. Mara Vale. Practiced in Isolde's hand. The silence that followed was almost beautiful. Vera lowered her head and attempted to lick the chestnut stain. Lady Merwin leaned forward. Food motivated, she said. Still admissible. Someone in the back choked. The Dragon King turned his head slightly, and Mara saw the effort it cost him not to smile. She should not have noticed. She did. Isolde stood. That is not. I was practicing the spelling for tomorrow's formal announcement. With my signature? Mara asked. You always twist everything. Vera growled. Mara touched 2 fingers to the table. The lynx cat stopped. That was when the room changed again. It was one thing for Vera to be dangerous. It was another for everyone to see that the danger answered Mara. Callum saw it too. His eyes moved from Vera to Mara, then to the original register. Mara, he said, quieter than before. I did not know about the line regarding Vera. Mara looked at him. Once, that would have been enough to make her search for the part he did not mean badly. Tonight she heard only what mattered. But you knew there were changes. He did not answer. There it was. Not a confession. Worse. A truth too small to hide behind. He had not needed to know which rights Isolde tried to steal. He had only needed to know Mara was being reduced, and he had allowed it because reduction was convenient. Mara picked up the original signature page. The paper trembled once in her hand. The Dragon King saw. His hand moved. Vera's head snapped toward him. He stopped. Mara's breath caught despite herself. He had not touched her, had not even reached fully. But the intent was there, steady, checked, restrained. He looked at Vera. I am behaving. Lady Merwin glanced at Mara. Is he? Mara should not have smiled. She did not quite. Barely. A faint warmth entered the Dragon King's eyes. Callum saw that too. Good. Mara turned to the fire mirror. The blue-gold flame from the old temple burned there now, reflected through the open corridor by dragon craft and ancient law. It shifted when she approached, as if it knew her step. She placed the original signature page over the altered roll. Isolde whispered, You cannot command dragon fire. Mara looked at her. I am not commanding it. She laid both hands on the council table. The old mate mark went cold at her throat. For the first time, she did not try to warm it. I do not ask the fire to choose me, Mara said. I ask it to witness what was changed. The flame rose. Blue-gold light swept over the table. The altered ink dulled. The original register shone. One by one, the missing clauses appeared in the air above the table in lines of fire clear enough for even the back row to read. Dowry protection retained. Free passage retained. Temple signature rights retained. Service record under Mara Vale. Bonded guardian Vera, retained by Mara Vale unless abandoned by name. Then the flame moved to the shawl on Isolde's shoulders. Not burning. Not harming. Only revealing. The moon thread Mara had sewn into the hem lit in silver script. Property of the acting Luna office. Not transferable without public witness. Isolde tore the shawl from her shoulders as if it had stung her. It fell to the floor between her and Mara. No one picked it up. Vera sniffed it, sneezed, and turned away. That somehow hurt Isolde more than the fire had. Lady Merwin stood. The Dragon Court recognizes the royal flame as valid witness, she said. The dissolution roll was altered after the morning copy. The leaving party did not abandon dowry, passage, signature rights, service record, or bonded guardian. Callum looked at the Dragon King. This is still a Greythorn matter. The Dragon King's expression did not change. It became mine when your court woke my fire by trying to bury her name. Callum's mouth tightened. Lady Merwin continued. The Greythorn court will restore the original dissolution terms. The attempted transfer of Luna authority is invalid. The rival applicant will surrender the temple key, the Luna shawl, and any claim to temple office pending 3 years exclusion from oath handling. Isolde sat down as if her knees had failed. No tears now. Just calculation collapsing. Debt protections attached to the proposed Luna transition are void, Lady Merwin added. Isolde's face went white. Material consequence had a way of finding the truth beneath performance. Elder Branna whispered, 3 years? Lady Merwin looked at her. Would you prefer Dragon Court audit of every Greythorn oath in the last decade? Branna shut her mouth. Mara almost liked the woman. Almost. The Dragon King spoke next. Until the old temple records are reviewed, the Dragon Court will not accept new border oath documents signed solely by Alpha Greythorn. Callum stood. That weakens my court. No, Mara said. Every eye turned to her. She stepped closer to the table. That reveals it. Callum looked at her then with something like grief. Too late. Too small. Too focused on himself. Mara, I never meant for this to become a record, she asked. He stopped. You told me not to make a scene, she said. So I made a record. Vera jumped down from the table and stood at Mara's side. Mara picked up the mate ring. For one strange second, the hall seemed to hold its breath. Then she placed the ring beside the altered roll. I confirm dissolution of the mate engagement. Callum's hand gripped the back of his chair. I do not accept delayed explanation as repair. I do not accept private apology as public correction. I do not transfer Luna duties to Isolde Marrow. I retain my dowry protection, free passage, temple signature rights, and Vera's guardianship. Vera purred once, loud and smug. The hall heard. Mara continued. I petition to establish an independent temple archive office until the record review is complete. Elder Branna began. That office would require a scribe, Mara said. Nilla word. Nella's face changed. Not joy. Not yet. Something more fragile. Recognition. Mara turned toward her. If she accepts. Nella looked at the council. At Callum. At Isolde. At the altered roll. At Vera, who was now washing one paw with great drama, as if the entire legal system had bored her. Then Nella lifted her chin. I accept. Mara nodded. Lady Merwin's gaze warmed by a degree. The Dragon Court will send clean copies of the old border oath to the new archive office. The Dragon King looked at Mara. If the office accepts foreign documents. Mara met his eyes. If they are correctly formatted. His mouth curved. There was again that controlled, almost smile. I would not dare send you a sloppy treaty. Wise. Callum's chair scraped back. Mara. This time, the sound of her name did not cut. It passed over skin already healed enough to reject it. He looked at her as if seeing, much too late, the shape of the absence she would leave. You were never supposed to lose everything. Mara picked up the restored original roll. No, she said. I was supposed to lose only enough that you could still use what remained. The despair on his face was visible. Good. Let the hall see it. Let him stand in public with the truth he had made. Isolde turned her face away, but Lady Merwin had already gestured for a Dragon Court scribe to record the penalties. The shawl was removed from the floor with tongs, which Vera seemed to approve. The temple key was taken from Isolde's wrist. Callum's border signing authority was suspended pending review. Elder Branna announced the restoration of Mara's free passage in a voice tight enough to splinter wood. By the time the council ended, dawn had begun to pale the windows. Mara walked back to the old temple because endings, in her experience, did not clean up after themselves. Vera came with her, of course. So did Nella, carrying the restored register like it was made of glass. The Dragon King followed at a distance that asked permission without words. Lady Merwin followed because, as she put it, men left alone with emotional matters often mistake silence for resolution. Mara did not disagree. The old temple looked different in dawn. Not beautiful. Not yet. But awake. The blue-gold flame had lowered to a steady lamp. The dust still lay thick on the side pews. The archive cabinet still leaned. The roof still needed work. Mara felt a strange laugh rise in her. Of course. Freedom came with repairs. Vera bounded up to the high cabinet and knocked down a roll of damaged ribbon. Nella caught it before it hit the floor. Assistant archivist, Mara said sharply. Vera looked down. Her ear tufts flicked. Then she began purring. Nella stared. She does that? For me. The Dragon King stood at the temple threshold. He did not enter until Mara looked at him. That mattered. More than it should have. You may come in, she said. He stepped inside. The space seemed smaller with him in it, or perhaps only more awake. You won, he said. Mara looked around at the cracked stone, the leaning cabinet, the soot, the dust, Nella's ink-stained hands, Vera's smug face, and the dragon flame that had arrived because someone tried to steal her exit. I recovered what was mine. That is rarer. She did not know what to do with the way he said it. Not flattery. Not rescue. Recognition. Lady Merwin moved to the altar and inspected the restored roll. Your new archive office needs a door seal, 2 clerks, 3 independent witnesses, and a better roof. Nella made a small sound. 3 clerks would be ideal. Everyone looked at her. She flushed. Eventually. Mara smiled. Write it down. Nella did. Vera jumped from the cabinet to the altar, sniffed the dragon flame, decided it was not edible, and came to Mara instead. She pressed her broad head into Mara's stomach. The purr began again. For the first time since the hall, Mara let both hands sink into the lynx's fur. I know, she whispered. We are still here. Vera purred harder, as if correcting her. No, not still. Finally. The Dragon King watched them with a look that made the old temple warmer. Mara noticed. She wished she had not. Lady Merwin noticed that Mara noticed, because high-ranking women with sharp eyes were a danger to everyone. I will see to the court copies, Lady Merwin said. Orek, do not loom in the doorway like a tragic mountain. It is unbecoming. The Dragon King blinked once. Nella developed a sudden intense interest in her ink pot. Mara failed not to smile. Orek stepped farther inside. I was not looming. Vera growled softly. Mara looked down. She disagrees. I see. She is usually correct. That seems inconvenient. Only for people who deserve it. His eyes returned to Mara's face. This time there was no counsel, no altered role, no old alpha watching, no rival woman pretending softness was innocence. Only the old temple, the dragon flame, a woman who had chosen to leave, a king who had arrived because a fire demanded it, and stayed at the threshold because consent mattered. He removed one black glove. Mara's pulse betrayed her before pride could stop it. He held the glove out, palm up. There was a smudge of blue-gold ash on the leather from the lamp inspection. Your flame marked it, he said. I thought you might want to keep the evidence. Mara accepted it. The glove was too large in her hand, still warm from him. Vera leaned forward and sniffed it. No growl. That was new. Mara looked down at her. The lynx cat looked away with elaborate indifference. Orek's voice lowered. When your office opens, my court will send the first clean copy of the old treaty. Mara rubbed the edge of the glove between her fingers. And if I return it covered in corrections? Then I will read every line. A breath passed. A charged, quiet, dangerous little breath. Mara was not afraid. That was the problem. She was affected. That was the larger problem. Vera chose that moment to place one enormous paw on the hem of Orek's coat and hold him in place. Everyone looked down. The Dragon King looked at Mara. Am I detained? Mara looked at Vera. The lynx cat began to purr. Not loudly. Not like she did for Mara. But enough. Mara's heart did something foolish. She is considering your application, Mara said. Orek's almost smile returned. For what position? Mara lifted the glove. Treaty courier. Possibly furniture. Nella made a sound that might have been laughter and turned it into a cough. Lady Merwin, from the archive cabinet, said, Approve furniture. Men are more useful when stationary. Orek did not look away from Mara. I can remain still when properly motivated. Mara should have answered sharply. She had several options. Instead she smiled. Small. Real. Then bring a clean treaty. I will. And do not call Vera a pet. I would not dare. Vera removed her paw from his coat as if satisfied with the preliminary hearing. Outside, the sun touched the old temple roof. The first light caught the dragon flame and scattered blue gold across the cracked floor, over the restored roll, over Nella's new ledger, over Lady Merwin's silver staff, over Oryx's waiting hand, and over Vera's thick fur. Mara looked at the altar where her name had nearly been erased, then at the empty wall where the new office seal would hang. She had thought leaving would feel like losing a home. Instead it felt like opening one that had been locked from the inside. Behind her, Vera climbed onto the highest cabinet, circled twice, and settled with royal satisfaction. Her black tufted ears stood sharp against the morning light. She glared at every person in the room. Then Mara lifted one hand. Vera's face softened. The purr began again. Only for her. And for the first time in years, Mara did not lower her voice when she spoke inside the old temple. Nella, she said, open a new record. Nella dipped her pen. What title, my lady? Mara looked at the dragon fire, then at the ringless hand holding the dragon king's glove, then at the lynx who would never belong to anyone else. Not my lady, she said. Not today. Nella waited. Mara smiled. Right, Office of the Free Luna Archive. First entry. The pen touched paper. Mara breathed in. On the morning after Mara Vale ended her own bond, the old temple opened under her name. Vera purred like a small thunderstorm. Oryx stood beside the door, not in front of it. Lady Merwin nodded once. Nella wrote every word. And somewhere behind them, in a hall that no longer owned her, an alpha finally understood that the woman he thought would never leave had not run from his court. She had out-recorded it. She had out-witnessed it. She had outgrown it. And she had taken the fire with her. Would you have forgiven the alpha after the truth came out, or would you have chosen the Dragon King's court? Subscribe for more rejected Luna stories where the quiet woman finally gets the last word.